Welcome to another episode.
I really need to start opening these up because you're going to scare people away before we even get started.
Off the fence.
What are we talking about today?
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
I knew you were going to do that. I literally just started.
90s R&B, hip hop. What's up?
No, thank you. 90s country.
We're actually, for those of you who are now alarmed, are you talking about sex? No, we're not talking about sex. We've already talked about sex a lot. I enjoy talking about it. Anyways, here's what I want to talk about. Do you
want me to take over?
Okay. I have been trying to find out where I want to get news, and because I have a bit of an agenda with my news, I would like news people to not tell me what I should think. I would like news people to tell me what happened. That's what my brain says. Tell me what happened.
So to do that, then I read and follow all of the major news networks and try to do that myself. But you're not wanting to have to do all of that.
Yeah, I also do.
You do that, but you're trying to find an even more efficient mechanism.
There's moments that I don't want to have to go to my MSNBC app, go to my Fox News app, and be like, okay, so they're both saying about the same story, completely different things. So I've started following a couple companies, I think, that are trying to be nonpartisan. You never know where they're going to end, but they're trying to be. They put out an article that really got me thinking, and I want to talk about it.
Awesome.
The question is, and I'll steal their title. In fact, I'll look it up here on my phone. But the title is, "Why is there a labor shortage?"
Yes.
Why would you and I go to a restaurant? Is there a 6-year-old seating us because they're probably the owner's child because they can't hire people?
Or there's one line open at a grocery store and the rest are self-checkout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are there...
The shelves aren't stocked.
Why is every construction company that I know hiring no less than 20 people, no experience necessary, no education needed?
Right.
Can you show up and pass a drug test, please? You're hired, and we'll pay you pretty well.
Or are you breathing?
Better than any of your predecessors started, right?
Sure.
So why is there a labor shortage? Now, if you watch certain news stations, they will tell you that it is a president's fault. Trump, Biden, George Washington. I don't know who they're in the mood to blame.
I'm so proud of you pulling from history, babe.
George Washington.
Look at that.
Everyone probably knows about George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and then maybe the last 5 or 6 presidents, but then they're like, uh-oh.
What about Taft?
William Taft.
Or
William.
Do you know Dwight Eisenhower, who lived for a time in Kansas? We say he's from there. I think he's not.
Why is there a labor shortage? Right now, people listening or watching are like, oh, I know why. It's because we gave free money. But whatever.
Well, nothing's free, but yes. Right, yeah. Go on. I used to teach
because we
economics.
printed more.
Yes.
So what I enjoyed about the article was it gave what appears to be nonpartisan research answers to this question.
So research-based, yeah.
So here's some data.
Okay.
This is not anyone's opinion.
Okay.
30 million Americans lost their jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Wow.
30 million.
Like laid off, fired.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The unemployment rate.
Shut down.
Listen, the unemployment rate, again, these are facts.
Yeah.
The unemployment rate hit its highest level since the Great Depression.
Wow. So we know there's a deficit.
Yeah.
That proves that.
So, and I'm just sliding, but job recovery was strong.
Define that for people.
I would like to. Within a year of Great Depression stuff, within a year, there was one job opening for every one unemployed American.
So the jobs went away, but they came back, recovered. Yeah.
Within a year, there was one job opening for every one unemployed American. As of August 1st, 2022, there were 2 jobs per jobless person.
Wow.
So we begin to see a problem.
Yeah.
We move from 1 job per person who's unemployed to now there's 2 jobs.
So where'd they all go?
Right. So But despite the surplus of jobs, 1% of the U.S. working age population never returned to work. And so this is begin to queuing in. Again, these are stats. These are not opinions.
Yeah.
So I love this. The result has been a major labor shortage, particularly in retail, manufacturing, and hospitality.
Okay.
Which I think a lot of us are like, yes.
Yes.
An estimated 70% of retail jobs are unfulfilled.
I think we could all.
70%.
Yeah.
55% of manufacturing jobs are unfilled, and 45% of leisure and hospitality ones are unfilled. So all facts. Don't argue it. Don't tell me who your favorite president is, who you hate, all that. That's just all facts. So here's what they've been observing. And this is why I think this is so fascinating to me. First, more people are retiring than before COVID-19. So before COVID-19, people working. COVID-19 happens. They lose their jobs or everything changes.
Or they just come home.
Home. And it appears as though many of them chose to retire in that mix.
I'm out.
Yeah, going, all right, I'm at a certain age now.
Yeah.
I now can. I wasn't planning to.
It's a nice off-ramp, yeah.
I was planning to work another year or two or three, but I'm not going to now.
Yeah.
So unlike in previous recessions, COVID-19 did not cause major losses in retirement savings. So they can retire.
Yeah. Because they were just sitting at home, not
they
traveling.
They have the means to retire. Yep. And so they did. So that's
one of the deficit.
Retired folks.
Yeah.
Second, Americans have saved $4.2 trillion by making more and spending less. So we did this on our own budget. We're like, because you got a bit of a freak out, right? Like, hey, trim it. Let's make sure we don't spend much. But also, for many of it, a lot of people stopped traveling much. So
you don't go to the store very much.
Yeah, so
click and pull is a lot of budget saving.
So Americans saved, which then allowed people to dictate what jobs they were going to do.
Or if they would work at all.
Or if they were going to use. So in essence, many people took their side hustles pre-COVID and they saved up enough money to where their side hustles became their full-time job. Started a business.
Which pulled them out of the market.
Right. Yeah. So instead of a side hustle and I'm working at a restaurant, they now took their side hustle and their savings right now and are creating a business. And they've not returned to their restaurant business, their job. The third and the last reason, this is interesting, women's work rates are at their lowest since 1970s right now.
Wow.
As more children's activities have gone virtual and childcare costs have risen, U.S. mother work rates have fallen from 70% to 55%.
Wow.
So,
well, and also I would say, I'm not trying to add to the article, but not only is childcare expensive, but there are a lot of deficits on staffs for there too. So even availability has shrunk significantly.
Yeah.
And so just access to it.
I call it also, not saying staying at home is a vacation, but I call it the vacation effect. It's when a vacation, you change your routine.
Yeah.
Completely. And whenever you're done with vacation, one of the hard parts is not that you were like in love with wherever you were vacationing. It's now you have to get back to the grind or whatever you want to call it.
And we all stayed at home for so long. Yeah.
Yeah. And
we got rhythms.
So many, it sounds like many ladies no longer going to their job, and disproportionately even to men are like, I don't want to go back to that.
Or we can't go back.
Or we can't go back.
Yeah.
So all we know is we don't know all the reasons why, but they
team.
went from 70% to 55%.
Yeah.
I find this so fascinating.
I think too, though, one of the things I noticed with a lot of friends that have made that choice is that the expectation since the late 70s, early 80s was that women, it would be a 2-income household. So there's almost this just assumption. So to be able to stay home and go, hey, this actually works really well for our family. This really helps. So we're going to sacrifice so that we can do it. It almost became an option that maybe it hadn't even been explored before too. I have a lot of friends that did that where they went, I stayed at home and now I do want to homeschool my kids or, be available.
And
lots of changes.
The article, which is nonpartisan, which I appreciate, they also put in at the end of it, Like there are also other percentages that don't equate. I mean,
Yeah.
There a sickness.
Yep.
And I agree. So someone's going, well, but what about? You're right, probably about what about.
Yeah.
But those are the
top three.
When you're talking 70% to 55%, when you're talking about more people who are retiring than had before, those are big chunks of percentages that are showing the major deficit. The major deficit isn't actually in people afraid to go out, or too sick to go out, or whatever. Or you might be blaming the president. You might be saying, hey, they're getting paid by not working. That's actually not really happening as much everywhere as it did initially. So there is a little bit, but the big percentages, I just thought that was profound. And we're talking about, even on Off the Fence podcast, going, maybe I've won. Maybe the lesson is I've formulated opinions because mass media told me what to think, and maybe you were wrong, and maybe I was wrong.
Yeah.
To where now the data is telling us quite a bit that's going, okay, that's logical. Retired, now you can retire. Hey, you kind of liked where you were, or hey, you're turning your side hustle into full-time hustle. All of it's like, I don't think any of those are bad.
Don't we do that in our lives though? Almost all the time, where we form these opinions, and not even out of malice, but we forget to check in with people that are around us. Yeah. And we just form all of these. From an early age, even that person hasn't said hi to me. What did I do wrong? I must have done something wrong, or maybe they're mean or whatever. And anyway, it's just funny to me. Human behavior doesn't really change. We're all just learning.
So it feels like a rabbit trail, and I apologize for this, but so thinking about work and all that kind of stuff, I read another article that I won't read.
So proud of you for reading.
I just learned how to read.
But you're really doing a good job.
Thank you very much.
What was the article you read?
I do read. I mean, I read probably.
You're an avid reader, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I read probably 40, 50 books a year.
Yeah. We should do a podcast sometime just on the book you're reading now. But let's...
but I got lots of books.
No, I know, but the one you're reading now... we need to do just a whole podcast.
I'm reading... when I say reading, sometimes I read, sometimes I read. So I'm listening to Bernie Mac's
autobiography,
or how this
autobiography, yeah.
And I'm loving it. Man, he came from some tragic stuff. But.
Anyway, sorry.
All right.
So you read an article.
So I'm reading about the workforce.
Yes.
That then leads me into reading a little bit about what's going on for those who are going to work. Mm-hmm. What are we learning about those going to work?
Yeah.
And a shift has also occurred for those going to work, and they call it quiet quitting. I brought it up in a sermon, but this because church people will do this with following Jesus.
Yeah.
Here, let me read a little quote here. The latest buzz phrase coming out of social media is the concept of quiet quitting, whereby burned out or unsatisfied employees put forth the least amount of effort possible to keep their paychecks. Bare minimum stuff. The rationale for this workplace approach is that the work is not the most important thing in people's lives. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
They shouldn't put in any extra time without compensation for that time. And they should have freedom to pursue other endeavors outside of their employment. So, you're smiling at me. So, it's this term quiet quitting, where people are showing up on time, but it reminds me, I used to, have all these summer jobs and manufacturing jobs, and I used to help make countertops that were sold eventually at places like Lowe's and Home Depot.
That was a hard job.
Oh, it's brutal.
I didn't even know you then.
And every day, and this was acceptable, we would finish up, and you couldn't go any earlier, but you could show up 5 minutes before you could clock out. That was the earliest you could show up over to the clock. You still had to clock out on time,
right?
But you could stand by it 5 minutes to go. And so you better believe we all quit 5 minutes before then we had to quit. So let's say you got off at, I worked a late shift, so we got off at midnight.
Yeah.
So we got off at midnight.
Yeah.
You're paid to midnight.
But you stopped.
We're clocking out at midnight, but we stopped at 11:53. so we could walk over to the clock in 2 minutes and stand there at 11:55 because we were allowed to.
Probably 11:50, so you could clean up your area.
That's true,
and
actually.
then walk
and
over.
Then 11:55
and
we
stand
could stand
for 5
and we
minutes.
would. And you better believe we all stood there for 5 minutes because we were allowed to. It was the bare minimum give. It was like that's what we were allowed to do. And we would stand there and no joke, boom, midnight, and then we would start clocking out.
So what's interesting to me about this though is this isn't a new idea. It's what it is. It's low employee engagement. It's low connection. It's low investment.
Yeah.
They're measuring that. But I don't like if you've ever watched the movie Office Space.
Yeah.
There is, I mean, since the beginning of work, there has been quiet quitting. It's just been a different name. Because I remember when I was growing up, it was called like cubicle life. So like you just hide in your cubicle and play solitaire for the majority of the day. And then you get done because there have been so many studies, and I wish I would have looked into them because I dove down this when I was getting my master's in education and I was working through student engagement and how in work, most people can get done what they're supposed to get done in an 8-hour day. They could actually get it done in an hour, 2 hours.
Wow.
So low employee engagement as an adult is I'm going to play solitaire. I'm going to go to the water cooler a lot.
Okay.
Whatever. In students and kids, it's behavior. Often you see behavior issues when there's low engagement because you
act out.
Yeah. So
It's
anyway.
class clowns.
Instead of going, oh, I could read another chapter in my book. Like from the dawn of time, it has been there. But I think we give it a bad name right now, or it feels heftier because there's a job shortage. Like we're experiencing a season where there's a lot of
it feels like it feels immature. Anytime you witness like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Even though many of us are probably guilty of this at some point.
Well, and it reminds me though, like, so when we were talking about this, I immediately thought of in Colossians 3:17, it says, and whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Because what quiet quitting, whether you call it that or cubicle life or just not doing your best, when we talk through these things, my thoughts are always, as a believer, what is my role in this? Yeah. And what is my responsibility? What am I supposed to be doing as a believer? And so Colossians 3:17 is huge to me. That's immediately what I thought of, because no matter what you're doing it for the Lord. And so you need to be giving it your all. But also then, why does it happen? And how can we help people find purpose in their work, view their work as ministry, and do it? Because that has been...
Because it's not fulfilling to waste time.
Right. And I will tell you, when I read about quiet quitting, and I know like Gen Z keeps getting like, people are just throwing people under the bus. And saying, oh, this is that Gen Z. Well, no, we all have the capacity and probably have habits of kind of like doing, clocking out mentally.
Well, if you come from a family of workaholics, sometimes your response is, well, I don't want that kind of life.
Right. And so that one of the things that I think of though is, so what is actually happening? I talk about this all the time, but 3 huge questions that I ask all the time of our children and myself. What am I feeling if something doesn't feel right? Why might I be feeling it, and what can I do about it? And I think that when we talk about quiet quitting, one of my first responses is, what does that look like to each of us? Like if you weren't going to do the bare minimum in something, which you just never do. You always, like you even clean the grill when you're done. Right after you're done.
Because it's the most effective thing.
Right. It's like a foreign language to you.
I actually, you want to know inside my head? This is going to be gross to you.
Oh.
Not gross. I try to do the hardest thing first.
Woo. Yeah.
I try to do the hardest thing. So, I don't know. I don't know why I'm saying this. Man.
Maybe don't.
I'm right-handed.
Yeah.
So when I cut my fingernails this morning.
Okay.
I cut my right hand, so I've got to use my left hand, which is the harder hand, and I do that on purpose.
Yeah. Okay.
So the easier part is the second half.
So you've found
is that weird?
You found a stride. No, I think that's normal. But I think though a couple things come to mind when we talk about quiet quitting, if that's what we're going to, because again, watch Office Space. That's all that there's a whole generation of people from the inception of the cubicle in the 80s until probably COVID, where I think what all of this did was, and again, I think we're going to continue to find historically how culture shapes the makeup of
For sure.
being a person in this world.
Yeah.
But I think what it did, just like for a lot of people that said, I actually really love being able to be available to my family more, and it's worth the financial sacrifice. I think too, you had a lot of people who were potentially workaholics or were doing more and decided I should set boundaries. And so what that can easily become, whether it is or not, is, oh, well, you're quitting. You're just doing the bare minimum. Yeah. To some people, that means I'm just putting up a boundary. It's all subjective, but I think what employers can learn is, are we creating a culture within our workplace that gives people purpose and passion? Because we know I think that there's actually a study, and I have it right here. I just have to find it.
Quiet quitting is like literally the class that we're I didn't even think about this till now, but that's on the fence life.
It is.
It's I'm going to sit and observe, and I might even see something that should be done or could be done, but I'm literally choosing. Yeah. It's like it's the person when you do quiet quitting, you're going, I'm not even really all that motivated to get off the fence.
Right.
I just cool. I'm fine.
But I think, and you're right though, because you talk about quiet quitting as believers, as followers of Jesus, where we do the bare minimum. Yeah. But even as parents, if I'm like, I had a really hard day, turn the TV on, just kids, or go outside and play, instead of choosing to engage, doing the hard extra mile of going, no, you know what? We've been away from each other all day. Let's sit down and talk, or let's go play outside together. It transcends, any experience. But one of the things, because I always ask why, like, if people are doing that, instead of just going, oh, what lazy bums, I say, why are they doing that? Because that's a behavior that, just like a teacher who says, I'm going to pop in a video, guys, here's a worksheet. That's quiet quitting. But we just saw it as, being a history teacher, which I was, and take offense to, because you shouldn't do that. But there was a poll. I love polling. I used to work in politics, and I have an obsession with polling people and finding out, not just assuming that I know what everybody's thinking. There was a poll in December of 2021, so plenty of time post, that reports employees are 2 times more likely to stay at an organization that is purpose-driven, where they not only know what we're doing and why we're doing it, but they believe in it. And then 4 times more likely to be engaged at work if that purpose-driven organization gives them ownership in it.
Wow.
And so what I would say is there's a line too, though, between this doesn't really matter or it's not that important, and so I'm not going to do my best. Because I think a healthy organization, one of the things you do for our staff team and our family, but any sphere that you're leading in, you help people learn to set rhythms. You're not just training them up to do the work and to go do what they're supposed to do. You help them to be somebody that will be doing their best and living their best. Can you talk to me about that? Will you share what you do? Because you talk about rhythms and Sabbathing and all of that. So you're doing some of that, not even to prevent quiet quitting, but to help people be their best.
Yeah, I think so. Quiet quitting, there's always a reason that you're doing the bare minimum, because I think people you always know if you're doing the bare minimum, right? I did it as a student. I'm a classic example of a bare minimum student years ago, right? It's like, a C is passing, sweet, let's do this, right? But there's a reason. It's because you have other priorities.
Absolutely.
You're like, and at the time I cared more about girls and friends and free time than anything else.
Yeah.
So what I've learned by being very immature in this is that your rhythms and your routines should not simply be what you're in the mood to do.
Oh yeah, you got to brush your teeth every day.
They should be about the kind of life you want to have.
Absolutely.
So
that's good.
So for me, like especially when I coach pastors, hey, what should I do? And so I'll give them a little tactical help, like, hey, you should do this and blah blah blah. But what's really important is, what day of the week are you going to not do your job?
And if you can't name one,
and if you can't name one, you're going to, and I don't use this terminology, but I know they're going to quietly quit.
Yeah.
Because it'll start off with the solitaire kind of approach,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually they'll get burnt out, because I think that approach still burns you out.
Oh,
It's
sure.
fascinating
It
that,
is.
that
Yeah.
the boredom, I think, burns people out too. I
Yeah.
don't think it's like, man, I've just been working so hard.
Yeah.
No, work means nothing to you, so you're exhausted by that.
Yeah.
So I think one of the boundaries, one of the rhythms, whatever you want to call it, to life is looking at what kind of a life do I want,
Mm-hmm.
and that makes decisions for me
Yes.
all the time.
Yeah.
Why do I clean the grill?
Yeah.
Because we spent money on that grill.
Mm-hmm.
We and I don't want it to get to where it's broken and I've got to put more money in. I don't want to be the guy that has to buy our family has to buy a new grill every certain amount of years because we just don't take care of the
Mm-hmm.
grill. And also, what if someone uses the grill next and I'm not that person? What
Yeah.
if I left for them that
Yeah.
they now have to do? What work do they have to do? All that stuff's in my mind.
Yep.
To where, do I want to clean the grill? No. I get greasy. I get all that kind of stuff. I don't. It's not a love. I would never tell you. You know what I want to do today, just for fun. just for fun.
You go clean the grill, babe.
I want to go clean the grill, and I know that you not just for fun want to go do some landscape cleanup because I know you would rather probably sit and watch West Wing. You know what I'm saying? But you do stuff because of the value, and for me, I am far more energized than my mind will often let me know when I'm involved in doing some of the things that need to be done.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
Well, it does, because I do think it, again, and that's why I think what's first, going back to our word of the year as a church and as a family, is what's first. And God says everything that you do is stewardship, and everything that you do is an offering to the Lord, making the most of every opportunity, but doing it as though you're doing it for the Lord. That's the how we're to do everything. So it shouldn't matter what we're doing, whether we're mowing or all the things. I literally am going blank on all of the things that happen during the day, but honoring the Lord with our willingness to do it. But it's twofold, because I think if I know somebody that's quietly quitting, I think it's easy to go, oh, again, what a lazy jerk, whatever. But instead going, gosh, why might they be doing that? So maybe there's a lot of stress at home. So by the time they get to work, they just emotionally and mentally can't even focus. And that's, I think, again, it's the employee, but it's also the leaders of the organization or of the business that have this opportunity and responsibility to each other to make sure that they're paying attention to each other and taking care of each other. Because instead of just going, oh man, everybody's lazy, can't hire anybody good. Well, what kind of environment are we creating, and how are we taking care of each other? Because usually under the surface, it's not just that somebody wants to come to work and be bored all day. I can't imagine somebody wanting to sit in a cubicle and play solitaire all day and think that that's the life that they've been waiting for. That's why they went to college. That's not, I don't think anybody would say, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life. No, you want to live a life that matters. And you might have a bad day or two, but I love the opportunity. Again, like as a teacher, I would have to pivot my lessons because I'd say, I'm not engaging these kids. So they're not bad kids, but they're having disruptive behaviors. And maybe I'm actually not creating an environment that is meeting them where they are. I'm expecting them, So I think it's a twofold, but as believers, our responsibility is, though, to not just be okay with the apathy, because that's what I think it is. I do think for some people it's trying to set healthy boundaries. For others, I think it's just sheer apathy.
I agree. I think those are the two. Is that it's a mismanaged attempt to be healthy,
like an overcorrection.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Or it's a no, I don't even care.
Right.
Now, and I think the person, no, I don't even care. They're not even listening to this podcast right now.
Absolutely.
So I think it's more of the mismanaged. Like, are you mismanaging? So I have this. I've not taught this. I've not thought this is. I'm thinking.
Yeah, I love those.
I think if you look at a piece of paper, if you remember maybe all the way back to grade school or whatever,
love paper,
and you have the margins,
and
you don't write in the margins, you or if you're taking notes, you can't write the lines, and then they give you the lines. But I actually would tell you that some of the most meaningful moments of life are in the margins. So if you have no margin, you often wonder about meaning.
Yeah.
What's the meaning of all this?
Yeah.
I don't know, because there's so much going on. But I know for me, like even in my journal, I'll write, and it all can get in that normal section you write. But then occasionally I'll write on the edge of the margin, something that I had forgotten. That's where my mind goes to first.
Yeah.
I think about in my life that when you look at your margin time, so you said, so let's say I can get my job done in 2 hours out of the 8 hours. So that leaves you 6 hours of margin. Welcome to a story problem of life.
Yeah.
So that's 6 hours of margin that you actually have at the job that you've chosen to quietly quit.
Yeah.
Or it's margin that can be meaningful.
Yes.
To where you could say, you know what else does my company need? What else does my family need? What else can I do? Not overworking. No, that doesn't mean you put in a 10-hour day or a 15-hour day. But it's like, but I got my stuff.
Yeah.
Rather than doing solitaire or playing a game on my phone or doing this, I've got some margin. What can I do here? Maybe I can go help out one of my kids, do something.
Yeah.
Maybe I can do something for my wife.
And all of that lifts. And that's the thing too, though, is just doing the bare minimum. I think it's defeating in so many ways. And I'm just kicking you. I can't get comfortable right now.
It's fine.
I love the conversation though, because again, I think some of it is just age and experience and working in a lot of different places. I think we learn to go, there's more to that story than just going, oh, got just a bunch of lazy bones hanging out. There's more to it. And I think, again, part of loving the Lord and knowing the Lord is not just going, oh yeah, man, we're all a bunch of goons out there, but instead going, why and what can we do about it in our own lives, but also to encourage and lift others and help people live out what God has called them to. Because that's whether you're bagging groceries at a grocery store or you're the top executive of some huge company, it is our job, our privilege, our responsibility to work as though we're working for the Lord.
I think good lesson here for those who are tempted, who have been quietly quitting, basically who are wasting margin.
Yeah.
Is waste it less. And when I say that doesn't mean you go do. Maybe you work an 8-hour shift and your work really only has 2 to 3 hours of stuff, and you're like, what do I do? Spend a portion of that praying. Like, spend a portion of that. Go find a coworker, someone you may even work with that you don't even know, and have a conversation.
Yeah. Can
I know more about your life? Tell me about just do something with it. Don't waste it.
Yes.
And I think that's what we're hearing about this quiet quitting, which is basically I'm going to waste a portion of my day because I don't want to get overworked.
Yeah.
That's a bad approach.
Yes.
Don't waste it. It doesn't mean you have to go produce, like do all the things, but don't waste it.
Yeah. Amen.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Off the Fence. You like that? Dude, that's amazing.
You need those little ear things so you can hear what we're all hearing when you do that.
Do you understand? I would imagine it sounds angelic. Well, Off the Fence. Yeah. All right. Hey, until we get a chat with you again, I hope that you know that we love you very much. And we hope that your margin time over this next week or two or longer than that gets better and meaningful.
And let people help you if you don't know how to do that or where to start.
We love you.
Love you. Bye, friends.